Kelsey Mitchell didn't just win a basketball game, she delivered a moment that instantly reshaped the narrative surrounding Angel Reese's long-awaited return. Just days ago, Reese finally stepped back onto a professional court after mysteriously disappearing from the 2025 season with a back injury that had already echoed concerns from the previous year. That same pattern of physical setbacks had cut her 2024 campaign short as well, leaving fans wondering whether her comeback would mark a triumphant reset or another chapter of uncertainty. Waiting for her on the hardwood was a poised and battle-tested all-star from the Indiana Fever, and what unfolded looked less like a welcome-back moment and more like a harsh reality check. Mitchell didn't simply outplay Reese. She attacked with precision, timing, and confidence that suggested she had no intention of easing up just because her opponent was returning from injury. On the game's decisive possession, Mitchell sliced through the defense and finished the winning drive while Reese struggled to contain the play, ultimately closing the night with the lowest plus-minus on her team at -9. For viewers, that stat wasn't just a number, it became a symbol. It suggested that Reese's presence on the court didn't tilt momentum in her team's favor the way fans expected it might. That performance immediately ignited debate. Analysts, commentators, and fans began asking the same question from different angles. What exactly had Reese been doing during her time away? Had her recovery period been focused on rebuilding strength and skill, or had valuable development time slipped away while others continued sharpening their games? In professional sports, absence can be costly. The league doesn't pause for anyone, and every missed month is another month competitors spend improving. The contrast between expectation and reality made the moment even louder. Reese's return had been framed as the start of a comeback story, the kind that reminds audiences why perseverance matters. Instead, her first major test back highlighted rust, hesitation, and a lack of rhythm that seasoned players rarely show. One rough performance doesn't define a career, of course, but first impressions after a long hiatus tend to stick in people's minds. That's especially true when they happen under bright lights and against elite competition. So now the conversation has shifted. Instead of celebrating a return, fans are debating readiness, preparation, and whether the timing of her comeback was right. In sports, narratives can change in a single possession. And for Reese, that one game may have done more than end a storyline before it began, it may have started a completely different one.
Money Mitch put Angel Reese in a ditch. Kelsey Mitchell finds herself at the three-point line, one-on-one against the great one. If you know, you know. One-on-one against Angel Reese, takes her off the dribble, blow by Angel Reese, seeing stars, bend over, touch your toes. Kelsey Mitchell, give me that game winner.
Injuries are an unavoidable reality in professional athletics, and no reasonable observer expects players to be immune to them. However, the credibility of injury explanations often depends on transparency. When teams communicate clearly about diagnoses, recovery plans, and timelines, fans tend to be more understanding. In Reese's case, critics point toward the handling. Injuries are an unavoidable reality in professional athletics, and no reasonable observer expects players to be immune to them. However, the credibility of injury explanations often depends on transparency. When teams communicate clearly about diagnoses, recovery plans, and timelines, fans tend to be more understanding. In Reese's case, critics point toward the handling of updates from the Chicago Sky as a major source of frustration. Official reports have frequently been limited to brief day-to-day labels, offering little detail about treatment progress or expected return dates. That lack of specificity has left supporters guessing. And when audiences are left guessing long enough, they start constructing their own interpretations. Speculation fills the space where information is missing. Some fans wonder whether setbacks were more serious than described. Others question whether they were less serious. Without clarity, rumors and assumptions can spread faster than facts. Observers often contrast that communication style with the approach taken by organizations like the Fever when discussing player health. When star guard Caitlin Clark or any teammate deals with physical issues, updates tend to be straightforward and detailed, outlining what happened and how recovery is progressing. That openness can foster trust between team and fanbase because it signals respect for the audience's investment in the sport. Communication might seem like a minor administrative detail, but in modern sports culture it plays a huge role. Fans don't just watch games, they follow storylines, monitor player health, and track progress like analysts. Incomplete information disrupts that engagement and can unintentionally create suspicion even when nothing unusual is happening. Silence, in a media-driven environment, rarely stays neutral. It often gets interpreted. For Reese, the absence of detailed updates has become almost as discussed as the injuries themselves. Every vague report has added another layer to the conversation, prompting debates about whether teams owe fans.
Angel Reese suspended again. Bang! Her own team suspended her because she missed too many layups. First time we've ever seen somebody suspended because their booty cheeks Bang! She's so embarrassed she got suspended by her own team. She's now faking a back injury. Bang! This performance, that back brace ain't doing nothing. She's hugging. She's laughing. Not a coincidence. She's also in a movie now. She's acting. Bang! Doing everything but getting better at basketball.
There's a deeper question circulating among fans and analysts alike, and it's not just about one performance. It's about a pattern that some observers believe has started to form. How does a player with Reese's visibility, talent, and profile keep stepping away right when seasons approach their most demanding stretch? Looking back chronologically, the timeline has raised eyebrows. First came the early exit from the 2024 season because of a hand injury. Then came another incomplete run during a separate competitive stint the following year. Finally, the 2025 campaign ended prematurely when a back issue sidelined her again near the closing stretch. Individually, injuries are part of sports. Together, they can start to look like a trend. And trends, fair or not, are what shape public perception. Fans don't just watch games, they track patterns, compare timelines, and analyze consistency. When absences repeatedly occur late in seasons, when pressure intensifies and playoff races tighten, it invites speculation. Some see coincidence. Others see a narrative forming. That divide in interpretation is where debate grows loudest. Professional athletes live in a world where durability is almost as valued as skill. Teams rely on players not only to perform well but to remain available when stakes are highest. The closing weeks of a season often determine playoff seeding, individual awards, and long-term reputation. Missing those moments can have ripple effects beyond the box score. It can influence contract negotiations, media narratives, and even locker room chemistry. Critics argue that timing matters as much as frequency. If injuries occurred randomly across seasons, they might attract less attention. But when they cluster near pivotal stretches, observers naturally begin asking whether something deeper is happening. Supporters counter that bodies don't follow schedules and that injuries can't be predicted or conveniently spaced to satisfy public expectations. Both sides believe they're being logical, which is why discussions about athlete availability can become so heated. What makes Reese's situation especially polarizing is the contrast between her public persona and her on-court interruptions. She's known for confidence, visibility, and a strong presence in media spaces. When someone with that level of spotlight disappears repeatedly during crucial competitive windows, it doesn't go unnoticed. It becomes part of the story surrounding them, whether they want it to or not. Right now, that story is still being written. But patterns, real or perceived, have a way of sticking in sports culture. And once fans believe they see one, it often becomes the lens through which every future moment is judged.
Burn! A movie, you got a podcast, 2K cover, but you can't hit a jump shot. Burn! Season's over, so let's rewind the tape to her first meme of the season. Let's get it! Bang! 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 My favorite play of the season for her. It took her 4, 5, 6, 7. Tries to make it in the basket. The anti-gravity shot. Bang! Defender not leaving the ground to block your shot. Bang! What's up? Come get some! Bang!
Shoot, I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Oh yeah! Butter pecan! Bang!
There's another dimension to prolonged absences that doesn't always get enough attention: the developmental cost. Missing games doesn't only mean missing minutes on the scoreboard. It means missing repetitions that sharpen instincts, practices that refine timing, film sessions that improve decision-making, and conditioning work that sustains endurance. Growth in professional basketball comes from repetition under pressure, and every gap in participation can slow that process. When players step away for extended periods, they don't just pause progress, they risk falling behind peers who continue training and competing. Skill development isn't static. Teammates and opponents alike are constantly improving, studying tendencies, and adapting strategies. That means returning athletes often have to play catch-up, not only physically but mentally. The game keeps evolving even when someone is sidelined. Observers who watched Reese's recent performance pointed to signs of that gap. Timing looked slightly off. Reactions appeared a fraction slower. Decision-making seemed less decisive than before. None of those issues are unusual for someone coming back from time away, but they become more noticeable when the return happens in a high-profile setting. Fans expect immediate impact, not gradual adjustment. Analysts often say that rust is real but temporary. The key factor is how quickly a player shakes it off. Some athletes regain rhythm within a game or two. Others need weeks of live action before their instincts fully return. The difference usually depends on how much preparation happened behind the scenes during recovery. Intensive rehab workouts, simulated drills, and controlled scrimmages can reduce the adjustment period, while lighter preparation can lengthen it. What February's game seemed to show, according to critics, was a player still searching for that rhythm while facing opponents already in mid-season form. That contrast can be unforgiving. Elite competitors rarely slow down to accommodate someone regaining footing. They test weaknesses immediately, pushing tempo and forcing decisions. That's exactly what happened when a seasoned all-star attacked decisively, leaving little margin for a rusty defender to recover. The broader question now isn't whether Reese can return to peak form. Many believe she can. The question is how long it will take and whether she'll have enough uninterrupted time on the court to close the development gap before expectations rise again.
Kelsey Mitchell calls game over Angel Reese. Oh snap.
To Hillis. Back out Mitchell. 5 to shoot. Crossover. Nifty dribble.
Oh, don't slam the ball. Don't slam the ball, Angel. Come on. It's not that serious. It's unrivaled.
When February 2026 arrived, Reese's appearance in a new competition surprised many observers. She looked physically comfortable, moving without visible restriction and showing no obvious sign of lingering back trouble. To casual viewers, she appeared fully capable of playing high-level basketball again. That visual contrast immediately sparked questions. If the injury had truly been severe enough to sideline her for such an extended stretch, what exactly had changed in the meantime? What treatment plan had been followed? Who authorized her return? And why hadn't those details been explained publicly? Those unanswered questions became fuel for speculation. Some analysts suggested that timing played a role, that her return coincided neatly with a major media moment rather than a clearly documented medical milestone. Skeptics interpreted that coincidence as suspicious, arguing that it looked less like a carefully scheduled recovery and more like a strategically timed reappearance. Supporters dismissed that interpretation as unfair, insisting that recovery timelines can shift quickly once an athlete's condition improves. In professional sports, perception often hinges on context. If a player returns quietly after rehabilitation updates and medical clearances have been reported step by step, the comeback tends to feel expected. But when someone reappears without that buildup, the moment can seem abrupt, almost cinematic, which naturally invites curiosity. Fans want the backstory that explains how the transition from sideline to active happened. Critics have framed Reese's situation through a cynical lens, suggesting that difficult stretches for her team and heightened scrutiny might have influenced the timing of her absences. According to that viewpoint, injuries become convenient explanations when pressure rises and narratives turn negative. It's a harsh interpretation and one that remains speculation rather than proven fact, but it's a narrative that has gained traction among certain corners of the basketball audience. What makes the discussion complicated is that timelines alone can't confirm motives. Injuries heal unpredictably, and athletes often push to return as soon as they're cleared. Still, when events line up in ways that look convenient, people notice. And once people notice, they talk. That conversation can grow louder than the original event itself. For Reese, the February appearance didn't just mark a return to competition. It marked the start of a new round of scrutiny. Because in elite sports, every comeback isn't just evaluated physically, it's evaluated narratively.